And we do not intend to be tired. We intend to look at what is happening in the world of news. We intend to have conversations that are interesting. And I say interesting because then we'll be delving deep into deciphering some of the things that have not been cracked just yet, you know, at a professional perspective, historical perspective, and just getting to understand how we manage some of these things that are playing out in the country politically. Education, we're looking at health, we're looking at so much more economically. And so we ask you to be part and parcel of the conversation. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. Thank you so much for keeping it TV47. Welcome on board. Once again, this is Morning Cafe with me, Linda Alela. Later on, we'll also be hitting the kitchen. It will be an interesting session. That's why I said we do not intend to begin when we're tired. So we start off your day on a very good note. Later on, we'll be having gentlemen that help me decipher on this Member of Parliament of Matuga. That is Honorable Kasim Sawatandadza, that is political historian as well, Professor Macharia Monene, and constitutional lawyer Ndegwa Njiru, for a very candid conversation as to what is likely to play out on the 20th of March, where then the Right Honorable Raila Odinga says that should be declared a holiday. Also just looking at what the Kenya Kwanza government intends to do in terms of reviving some of these sectors that have stalled up. The president yesterday saying that he is keen on looking at some of the dams that have had cases of corruption, but above everything have stalled up for obvious reasons. Arror and Kimwarer back and running. We will be looking at how then this is bound to happen and how the cases of corruption that lingers to these very projects will be addressed. So let's kickstart by as well looking at some of these key stories that are playing out, what is being done on the question of the banditry attacks, and as well look at the papers, the Standard newspaper, the People Daily, and the Daily Nation. So we start off with the Daily Nation, that which I have right in front of me. Arror and Kimwarer back, why Ruto is reviving the dams, and a series of embarrassing and potentially expensive happenings around the dam projects have now become the stepping stone for President William Ruto to revive the multi-billion shilling projects through negotiations with Italy. And interesting, there's this story. That cuts. Okay, this is a story that cuts across all the papers. Yes, the People Daily as well as the Daily Nation and the Standard newspaper. They speak of the possibility of the revival of these dams, and so let's wait to see. Let's get to see the reactions that play out of that. But what is important is that then these dams are functional for the purposes of making sure that the people get to benefit of these. A magazine fit to stand trial over death of lover Asad Khan. This as well is a story that finds itself across all the papers. A story captured on the front page of the Daily Nation and expounded on page 2. They say she is fit to answer to this, contrary to what also the family members had said. And she is to take plea, that is in murder case, after clearing mental test. She's accused of killing her boyfriend, Asad Khan, that is last December, and ex-DPP Mugo to join two other lawyers in Riley Ace's defense team as a case kicks off. And we'll be following up on that developing story as well to keep you up to tabs. Some 952 Avid laptops were stolen at Electoral Agency's Kisumu warehouse. This as well is a story that finds itself on the other papers. A puzzle over stolen IBC poll kits, and that the IBC, or in an IBC document presented to members of parliament, that it reveals how the commission lost election equipment worth billions of shillings, containing crucial data and mostly in areas considered ODM leader Raila Odinga's strongholds. That's a story captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Is expounded on page 4 and 5, and they're talking about between 2013 and 2021, the 2,245 total number of laptops at the warehouse before the theft happened. And what really could have informed this, and what does this report then mean in terms of just looking at how important the elections process is and how important it is for it to be a free and fair process. And so we'll be looking at that as we continue with the broadcast, just to get the view of the gentlemen that are here and to tell us whether this then opens a Pandora's box as to the integrity or as to the credibility, of the election. KMTC expels trainee medics over papers, and that students were admitted to the colleges last September using fake Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education certificates. That's a story captured on page 8. Why this? And then, of course, this would call for such measures or actions. A story captured on page 8. What really could have informed that, and at what point then did the due diligence, at what point did the due diligence, at what point it was conducted, and, to a level where now they establish this. Unga prices to go up again over maize shortage. This is quite unfortunate, a report. And we'll be looking to see whether such is the case. The story that is on the back page of the Daily Nation, that consumers will pay more maize flour, that is after millers in parts of the country suspended operations owing to acute shortage of the grain. This as the country continues to grapple with the high cost of living, and we get to see whether then it will be one of the triggers or the fuel to the conversation of what the Azimio team is saying, that on 20th of March, they will be out there to rally their supporters in Nairobi. Massive demonstration process to speak to these cases of high cost of living. Peoples get security escort as they break for half-term in banditry zones. This is quite unfortunate, a report. Much as they're getting this security that they require, we continue to hope that this banditry menace then is addressed in the best and shortest way possible to guarantee a scenario where then it becomes a game of the past. A fuel deal to save dollars, not reduce prices. A story that is on the front page of the Standard newspaper and is expounded on page 10 of the Standard newspaper. That is, fuel importation deal will stem dollar shortage, not pump prices. And that members of parliament want the government to government deal will drive local oil marketers out of business. Energy CS Cheer put on the spot for overlooking the nation or the National Oil Corporation. So we'll be following up on this report as well to see what plays out. Vincent Musa, who's the chairperson of the Energy Committee, says it is highly likely that the petroleum products will be more expensive as we will be holding other people's money and they will be charging us for that. On the other hand, Davis Chichir, who's the Energy Cabinet Secretary, says the OMCs will not be looking for the dollars, and this will mean that there will be adequate dollars for other sectors and Kenyans as well. The exchange rate will then come down from around from the 140 that is there currently. Those are the key stories, actually, this is one of the stories that is on the Standard newspaper. Another story is that it's an unfortunate piece that is playing out at the continental level. Lots of deaths recorded after heavy rains in Malawi. That could also be quite unfortunate. That is a story captured on page 26. We'll be looking at details on that as it's a developing story to keep you up to tabs. On the other side, did Uhuru team pay 6 billion for air in Telcom deal? Well, in spite of money having been paid under the emergency cover, Office of the Attorney General says it has not received the shares and does not even know who the money was paid to. That's a story that is quite unfortunate, as the government was seeking to get 100% control of Telcom. It's quite unfortunate that this is not the case. They're actually enjoying only 37.9%, contrary to what would have been expected. And so Ken Ogeto, Solicitor General, says the government does not have the 100% shareholding as per the current arrangement. The government has 37.9% and 56% is owned by Jamhuri Holdings, whom they say they do not have details of the leadership or the management therein. Defiant Raila declares Monday a public holiday. It will be interesting to watch as the opposition leader says March the 20th, March is unstoppable, and asked supporters to turn out in large numbers. He said the government must heed to their call. This is captured on page 5. Return of Arror and Kimwarer Dam as well. One of the conversations that we started off with is captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper and the People Daily, which I have as well. They say Arror Kimwarer back on agenda, and that is flood of controversy. Once mired in corruption allegations amounting to about 60 billion shillings, controversial dams have been revived, with pending court cases set to be thrown out. Move comes as a reprieve for former CS Henry Rotich as taxpayers to save about 12 billion in fines. 1.4 million tons of maize expected end month. This is a story that is on the front page, expounded on page 6. That shipment expected to ease shortage, but CS Linturi warns it will take time for cost of unga to come down. As Duale says, 13 billion shillings has been used in drought relief efforts. Away from it, we have another story. We lost crucial elections equipment ahead of polls. IEBC boss tells watchdog team. That's a story captured on the front page, expanded on page 7. What are the ramifications of this, and what does it speak to the credibility of the election once again? Those are the key stories. We'll be looking at them. It's exactly 16 minutes past the top of the hour. Allow us to pick. This was prepared by my team. Azimio Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga has illegally declared next Monday a public holiday to allow his supporters to march to Nairobi to protest President William Ruto's 2022 election victory. Odinga's announcement, which does not hold water under the law, was received with jubilation during an Azimio People's Baraza in Siaya County. And as Apollo Kamau reports, Odinga has declined an appeal by religious leaders to call off Monday's march to State House.
Azimio Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga rallied his home county of Siaya in his quest to mobilize opposition supporters to what he says will be a peaceful march to State House Nairobi to protest his alleged stolen election victory. Responding to a call by his 2022 running mate Mother Karua to declare Monday a public holiday, Odinga did not disappoint his support base, declaring Monday a public holiday to allow his supporters to march to the capital.
Na mimi naomba baba pengine atangaze hiyo siku iwe public holiday. Hatuwezi kuandamana tukifuata haki yetu na tuende kazi. Hiyo siku, Your Excellency, twakuomba iwe public holiday.
We declare that Monday the 20th of March will be a public holiday.
The announcement will no doubt upset President William Ruto's administration and set the stage for a clash between the government and the opposition, as the declaration has no legal standing, given it's only Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki who can only make such an announcement. Odinga's headline stance on the planned Monday protests came as religious leaders appealed to the opposition to call off the mass action, but a defiant Odinga could hear none of it.
We urge the opposition to reconsider the proposed mass action program and instead embrace dialogue and other peaceful approaches that do not threaten the lives and livelihoods of Kenyans.
That we people of Azimio came to the conclusion that we need to have a protest march after our ultimatum was completely ignored. Secondly, this is going to be a very peaceful procession. And that's why we've said we don't want any kind of violence, we don't want any bloodshed.
There are fears that Monday's march to State House could trigger chaos, with Azimio warning the government not to use police to quell the protests, further reminding the government that the International Criminal Court at The Hague still exists. This is not the first time Odinga is usurping the law. In 2018, he saw himself as a people's president at Nairobi's Uhuru Park to protest retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's 2017 election victory. Apul Kamau, TV47.
The planned protest by the leader of the the Azimio One Kenya alliance continues to stir controversy among lawmakers from the Kenya Kwanza coalition, and some members of the public Kenya Kwanza legislators argue that Raila Odinga's action will not solve the challenges facing Kenyans, and he will be responsible for any resulting damage. Paul Kirobi with that.
The anti-Ruto protest led by Raila Odinga have sparked heated reactions among legislators who are allied to the Kenya Kwanza government, with the climax of the protest expected to take place on Monday in Nairobi. The Kenya Kwanza lawmakers have criticized Odinga, saying that his protests are of no benefit to Kenyans and have led to the loss of property and lives, insisting that he will be held accountable for any losses incurred.
Ya kwamba historia tumeiona kwa maandamano yenye imefanyika hapo mbeleni, kwenye biashara za watu zimevunjwa, kwenye fujo na vurugu imetokea, kwenye hata watu wengine kama mtoto Pendo amepigwa risasi. Hiyo ndio maandamano hatutaki.
He was there when prices of the things were going up, even petrol. He can't now pretend that, oh, now you see they have gone up. Within 6 months, how can you bring down the economy the way he wants it to be?
Obstacles shall not be entertained. How can a man who has lost presidential elections 5 times and seems preparing for the 6th attempt 6 months after he lost the last one, not mature up enough to move on with his life? We are tired.
The lawmakers are now pushing to keep off Raila Odinga from getting the attention of President William Ruto, claiming that he's attempting to force a handshake.
That the back door they are used to in getting into government was permanently shut after the last elections. It will not be opened again, not in the Ruto administration.
Kwanza ambie wana Kenya, juu walikuwa ndani ya hiyo serikali kupitia handshake. Kulifanyika nini? Kutoka hapo makosa tunaona ni kwake na yule mwingine ambao walikuwa wameshikana na kuendelea na administration yenye ilikuwa.
Odinga, who has lost 5 elections in his bid to clinch the top seat, has warned the government against using the police to sabotage his demonstrations. Today, the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims has urged Odinga to refrain from holding demonstrations, as this is likely to interfere with the Ramadan calendar in the country, further calling for him to reconcile with President William Ruto.
Kwa hivyo hatutaki tuingie kwenye mwezi huu ambao ni wiki ijayo, ambao kuna hiyo mass action, sisi kwenda mabarabarani kuwa watu wataumizwa, watu wataporoa mali yao, au watu watapiga makelele, kuwe na fujo. Na huu katika mwezi wa Ramadhani ni mwezi mtukufu.
Political pundits argue that Raila's actions are likely to destabilize the economy, which is now in its 6th month under the new administration. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Now, President William Ruto has announced that the construction of the 3 dams, Arror, Kimwarer and Itare, which were entangled in court cases, will now resume. The president made the announcement during a press conference held at State House, Nairobi, where he was hosting his Italian counterpart, President Sergio Mattarella, who is on a 4-day visit to the country. Andrin Kilemi witnessed the developments.
We know that migration...
After 3 years of silence, there is finally news regarding the construction of the scandal-plagued Kimwarer, Arror and Itare dams. According to President William Ruto, Kenya and Italy have agreed to drop the court cases related to the projects that were initially estimated to cost around 66 billion shillings.
We, as the government of Kenya, are going to withdraw the cases filed against the companies, and the government of Italy and the contractors are also going to withdraw the arbitration cases.
The multi-billion construction of the 3 dams was halted in 2019 by the then President Uhuru Kenyatta, after investigations revealed that billions of money were paid to an Italian company for work that was not done.
We have agreed that the financing that was already made available is going to be restructured and the projects are going to start. We intend to clear the court issues in the next 1 month and be able to start the process of negotiating the restructuring of financing, and hopefully we should be able to go on with the construction of these dams in a matter of months.
Kenya and Italy further agreed to remove non-tariff barriers in a bid to strengthen trade and investment in the 2 countries.
I am delighted to announce that the President of Italy, President Mattarella, and I witnessed the signing of 2 agreements, 2 MOUs, and a joint declaration to provide a framework for advancement of bilateral cooperation in different fields.
The official visit by President Sergio Mattarella of Italy presents an opportunity for the 2 countries to strengthen their bilateral relations and further explore areas of mutual cooperation, including health and trade.
We have signed an MOU through which our 2 countries shall cooperate in the fields of health towards the realization of universal health coverage and improved pharmaceutical production.
Italy and Kenya also agreed to cooperate in the United Nations and other international forums to promote peace and security. Andrin Akilemi, TV 47.
It will be great to see those ones rolling back. Now, after a 1-month campaign to persuade Kenya Kwanza affiliate parties to fold and join UDA party, 6 political parties have succumbed to that pressure and finally agreed to fold up and join UDA. Cabinet Secretary for Investments, Trade and Industry, Moses Kuria's former party, Chama cha Kazi, is among the folded parties. NC party led by Lamu County Governor Issa Timami has since dismissed the calls, saying plans were in fact underway to rejuvenate the prime CS Musalia Mudavadi affiliated party from the grassroots. Micah Gungu with that.
The little-known Umoja na Maendeleo party led by former Embu County Governor Martin Wampora, Farmers Party of Kenya led by former PA Zirongo Nyakera, and Economic Freedom Party led by Isaac Hassan Abey are among the first political parties to take note of UDA Secretary General Cleo Malala's call to fold and join the ruling party. Others are Chama cha Mashinani led by its chairperson Mohamed Gulay, National Agenda Party led by Alfayo Agufana, and Chama cha Kazi led by its Secretary General James Kemani. UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala said the party leaders and representatives unconditionally agreed to provide political tranquility in Kenya and support the Kenya Kwanza administration in bringing all Kenyans together so that President William Ruto's manifesto to Kenyans can be achieved.
Tutawaweka katika chama chetu, wawe pia officials katika chama chetu, wawe pia members katika chama chetu. So tumewapatia idhini kwamba wanaweza participate katika grassroots elections zetu.
Asante kabisa. Malala, who unsuccessfully contested for the Kakamega gubernatorial seat on an ANC party ticket in the last general election, raised a storm in a teacup when he suggested that Kenya Kwanza affiliate parties should fold up and merge with UDA.
Wakitoka hapa wanaenda katika registry of political parties, waanze kupitia zile kanuni ambazo zinahitajika.
When I speak on behalf of national agenda, I would like it known that we are not being coerced to dissolve our parties.
Meanwhile, leaders from the Nyanza region, including former Nairobi County Governor Evans Kidero, former Migori County Governor Okoth Obado, and former Kisumu County Governor Jock Ranguma, have confirmed joining the United Democratic Alliance Party. The leaders argued that they will be working with the Kenya Kwanza government to ensure development in Nyanza region.
And the Nyanza people are saying no in the strongest possible terms. Also, we don't want to be balkanized because Mandamano, whether we like it or not, is remaining to be a Luo affair. We are being segregated from the rest of the Kenyans.
That is important to me, because democracy is what will take us forward. That will change the lives of our people.
Evans Kidero stated that the ruling party cared for the people of Kenya, adding that the Azimio coalition was focused on the wrong agenda.
So we are joining a party that cares about its people, not a party that, like the one we've left, that chaos. He is only interested in chaos. He is only interested in doing things for themselves, but not for the people who've elected them.
ANC party led by Lamu County Governor Issa Timami has since dismissed the calls, saying plans were in fact underway to rejuvenate the Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi affiliated party from the grassroots. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has also scoffed at the calls, noting that Kenya is a multi-party democracy, and as such, Kenyans should be allowed to make their own political choices.
The National Police Service.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has assured that no Kenya Kwanza affiliate party will be coerced to dissolve and join UDA. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Now, it has been exactly 6 months since President William Ruto was inaugurated under the Kenya Kwanza government. He climbed to the country's highest position through his bottom-up economic model, promising to revive the economy, which he claimed was struggling. While the new administration has fulfilled some of its promises, the misses seem to outweigh the hits. Flora Limuki with that.
The fifth president of the Republic of Kenya.
Kenya's fifth president now marks his first year in office with a mixed record of achievements and challenges. With a growing resistance from the opposition, President Ruto and his administration face a tough balance of taming the opposition and also delivering to Kenyans who elected them.
Freedom is here.
Take note that on 20th March of 2023, we have a date with destiny in Nairobi.
The president has faced criticism by Azimio leader Raila Odinga, who has declared his presidency as illegitimate. The skyrocketing cost of living has left many Kenyans struggling to put food on their tables, with many castigating the Kenya Kwanza government for the high price of unga, which is now retailing at over 200 shillings. This has been coupled with a biting drought across the country, with more than 6 million Kenyans having been affected. Also, for the last 1 month, more than 100 people have lost their lives to the banditry attacks in the North Rift. The Kenya Kwanza administration faces a tough task of ending the decade-old menace that has disrupted people's livelihoods in the area. However, the Kenya Kwanza administration has equally ticked some boxes in the last 6 months. The president has launched a new initiative called the Hustler Fund, aimed at improving financial inclusion and access to credit for small and medium enterprises, SMEs. The fund is intended to make it easier for the businesses to borrow loans.
Come on, guys, wapi shangwe vigelegele za the launch of Hustler Fund.
The president also overturned former President Uhuru Kenyatta's decision ordering that all cargo clearance be reverted back to the Mombasa port on his first day in office. The 7 judges that former President Uhuru Kenyatta failed to appoint were also appointed as promised by the head of state. In a past interview, the president indicated that his administration imported 1.5 million bags of fertilizer immediately it came into office and reduced the price of a 90 kg bag of fertilizer from 6,000 to 3,500 Kenyan shillings to ensure the country becomes food secure. Flora Limuki, TV 47.
Now, 10 executive committee members have been sworn in to serve the county government of Mombasa, with none of them having been retained from the previous regime of former Governor Hassan Joho. This delay can be linked to 2 postponements of the gubernatorial elections in Mombasa following a mix-up of ballot papers during the August 2022 general election.
I shall do justice to all. So help me God.
The County 001 becomes the last to appoint, approve and swear in its County Executive Committee members 6 months after the 2022 general election.
I shall diligently discharge my duties
and perform my functions
in the said office.
The team is expected to steer the 10 available dockets in the county government of Mombasa, including the Department of Lands, Urban Renewal and Housing, Department of Health, Environment and Solid Waste Management, among others.
The youngest waziri in the county.
The county boss Abdul Swamad Nasir says he has appointed a diverse team of leadership, noting that different tribes, gender and religions have been considered.
Mombasa itakuwa ni sehemu ambayo kila mmoja atahisi ni mwana Mombasa, bila ya kusema ya kwa tofauti ya rangi, bila ya kusema tofauti ya dini, tofauti za kabila wala tabaka. Ofisi za serikali ya county ziwe wazi kwa watu wote, kando na mambo yote mengine.
This includes his deputy Francis Thoya, who will serve in Environment and Solid Waste Management docket.
Watu 10 ambao tuko hapa tumepewa nafasi ya kwenda kuwahudumia watu wa Mombasa. Ushauri wangu, la kwanza, mawaziri hatutawapatia nafasi ya kupigwa na AC. There will be no room to sit in offices to enjoy the luxury of air conditions.
However, none of the outgoing County Executive Committee members have been retained from the previous regime led by the former Governor Hassan Joho. Mombasa and Kakamega counties had conducted a gubernatorial by-election on August 29th last year following ballot papers mix-up, leading to the delay of naming of the CECs. The delay in appointments had at several occasions prompted a debate, with some implying that the county governor was under political pressure to name certain individuals to his cabinet, but he later cleared the air on the matter. Paul Munio, TV 47, Mombasa.
Now, Kenyans are still facing economic hardships after the removal of maize flour subsidies last year. The flour subsidies that played out then, bringing this situation that has been compounded by the government's failure to pay the debt it owes to millers, resulting in a cost increase of 269 million shillings. Elizabeth Mutuku provides further details on this ongoing matter.
The Union of Flour Millers has stated that the government's failure to pay them 2.5 billion shillings has caused delays in their normal operations. However, the union has denied any plans to go on strike as means to force the government to pay them.
Just confirm to us, are you planning to go slow, to hold the government to ransom? Please answer.
Yes. Government to honor its part of the bargain. In solidarity, are you planning to go slow so that we become so hungry that you have to be paid?
We have no intention or even thoughts of that kind. Our business is to mill and sell our flour. We have no intention of actually doing something like that, absolutely.
The retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's government had implemented a plan to provide cheap flour to Kenyans for a duration of 4 weeks, which incurred a cost of approximately 6.6 billion shillings for the government. Delay in payment by the government to millers has led an increase in owed amount by 249 million shillings, which is a cause of concern. And now the Union of Millers has expressed concerns that the government's efforts to reduce the price of flour may not succeed due to the 2.5 billion shillings debt it owes them.
Just in Jerusalem, would you be patriotic enough and magnanimous to only pursue the principal amount and say, in the interest of the Republic of Kenya, let us waive the entire interest accruing?
Cash flow is stuck at a place. What do? That's why we've been trying. We're requesting you, honorables, to actually request the government. The sooner we can sort out, the better we become than sitting as we are. Because we are suffering as a business. The interest is not very critical, but the business itself is very critical.
Cereal Millers Association had requested MPs to advocate for their payment, but the MPs have accused subsidy program of being political ploy to embezzle funds. MPs have suggested that the government default on outstanding bills owed to millers have referred to Maize subsidy program, which was initiated in the final days of President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration as fraudulent scheme.
And the people of Kenya are asking, and you've heard, even this report has said that there was an outcry that this maize did not get to the people. You come here, take all our time, you sit here, the media, members of the forest are here, and then you do not give us evidence of how you did the last mile.
Trying to subsidize the flour to come to 100 shillings, there was no other energy source that was cheaper than this flour. So we did advise, it was expected the demand would be very high, because there was a human cry. People were suffering. They couldn't afford the flour. So we either do something or we don't do nothing.
As all the details of up to the last supermarket that we delivered to, every single detail per miller, per region, each and every, whether it's Naivas, whether it's a walk-in, whether it's general trade, is all in this file that is here with Miss Laureen.
The union, led by Chairman Mohammed Islam and Chief Executive Officer Paloma Fernandez, who appeared before the National Assembly Agriculture Committee, also denied allegations that they are planning to go slow in order to pressure the government for payments.
To sit down with the government to find an amicable way of how to sort this problem out. The sooner we do it, the better it is for them and for us, because we are also strained. We need to buy maize, we need to import maize. So where do we get the money? As a business is cash flow.
2.5 billion excluding interest. That's the figure that we said is the amount of outstanding as regards the 29 members of CMA.
The union says it is important to at least import maize used as animal feed in the country to be used for human consumption. Even as an audit goes on the last subsidy, which would cost Kenyans 6 billion shillings, things are not getting better, even as millers warn of unavailability of white GMO maize, not only in Kenya, but in the world. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47 Pan-Africanism, Nairobi.
Now, witness intimidation, evidence interference, destruction, and manipulation are some of the factors hindering or acting as catalyst in the delayed delivery of justice in cases involving police officers. During a recent address to stakeholders in criminal justice system, Penina Koome, a witness in a case that involved the murder of her husband some years back, called for the empowerment of the Witness Protection Unit to better serve and aid in the expedition of prosecution of such cases. Moigi William with that.
In a meeting that brought together stakeholders in the criminal justice system, Penina Koome, a widow, boldly took up the microphone to share her story of how she lost her husband in the hands of a police officer, narrating how an ex-Ruaraka officer commanding station OCS executed the heinous act by beating her husband to death.
Bwanangu alishikwa kaenda police station. Hakuwa mgonjwa. Kesho yake naenda kumtoa. Napata ako hospitali. How? I was not prepared ati naweza mpata hospitali. I'm a young mother, niko na mtoto wa mwezi moja, hata sija heal, I'm weak. Unaweza imagine hata ni Mungu siku collapse.
All this to intentionally drive a point, lifting the lid on the pain and trauma it takes for a common Kenyan to be finally granted justice in the Kenya criminal justice system.
Tena ameuliwa na askari. Hiyo uoga. Hiyo miaka ya hapo nyuma 9 years ago, haungendea askari, but things are changing. So I went through a lot of fear. In fact, I had to run away and hide myself in the village. IJM, they were looking for me. IPOA, they were looking for me because my sister-in-law, she's the one who filed the case.
Koome posing a challenge to the gathering among them officers from the Witness Protection Unit, the National Police Service, and Independent Policing Oversight Authority, among others, to help in empowering and bettering the witness protection services in the country.
Ni wengi wako nje. Mtu hata anaogopa kesi zinapotelea juu ya hiyo uoga, unashindwa sasa pale nitaenda kuface ule mtu aji. Ni aliua bwanangu, ako pale na muangalia. Hata unaweza shindwa kutoa hiyo ushuhuda. Uko na ushuhuda, you will witness, but unashindwa juu ya uoga.
The international justice system involved in ensuring that criminals are held accountable, stopping the cycle of violence and deterring others from abusing vulnerable people, called for the creation of a fund to support victims and witnesses involved in the criminal justice system. They also called for the operationalization of the Victim Protection Act of 2014. Additionally, stakeholders called for the creation of a compensation kitty to aid affected persons.
And so it's really important that when we are talking about these structures, we are really saying they are well resourced, both in terms of personnel and in terms of funds. Let us create budgets for psychosocial units in our organization. Let us have a budget. I was hoping
5% of all sexual violence related cases, it is only 5% that make it to judgment. The rest will fall out along that process, the criminal justice process. One of the reasons being the victims and their families withdrew.
Mwigi William, TV 47.
Now, rice farmers in Mwea, Kirinyaga County are now expecting a low harvest due to lack of water as a result of the prolonged drought witnessed in most parts of the country. And as Gilbert Nalwa reports, farmers who are harvesting more than 20 bags of rice are now harvesting as low as 1 bag.
It is a cry of desperation by rice farmers in Mwea, Kirinyaga County. The farmers here anticipate a low production in this year's harvesting season, which is due to the prolonged drought that continues to affect families and human activities in most parts of the country.
Ile shida yenye iko hapa ilikuwa ni ya maji. Mchele haiwezi katoka, mtu anavuna eka moja unavuna gunia 3, na msimu uliopita, mwaka uliopita tulikuwa tunatoa, kama mimi nilikuwa nimetoa gunia 17 hadi 25.
According to these farmers, this season's harvest is expected to be much lower than last season's, lowering their income and leading to them feeling the burden of the rise in the cost of living. Farmers who are harvesting over 20 bags of rice now only expecting as low as 1 bag.
Unatoroka ndio sasa unafanya hesabu yako, unaona mchele yenye inatoroka hiyo eka ni kidogo kuliko ile pesa utapea mwenye tinga. Unaamua tu kumwachia mchele aende nayo ajiripe mwenyewe.
Despite the farmers' efforts to source for appropriate and enough fertilizer to improve production, the farmers say they have made losses instead of profits, something that is making them consider dropping rice farming for other income generating activities.
Rice nilikuwa nimeweka mifuko 3. Sasa unanijiuliza hata hii kitu nimepata ya kufanya nini? Hakuna kitu imeingia kwa mfuko, niko na watoto wanasoma, niko na nini, mambo ingine na sijajiriwa pahali.
Sasa unaangalia maji venye iko, tulikuwa tunafikiria ile maji tulikuwa tumeahidiwa ya dam itatusaidia. Ratuni ndio inakuanga faida kwa mkulima wakati kama mchele ya main season haijafanya vizuri. Hiyo inakuanga ni ya kujiripa nayo.
The cost of rice is expected to go up if the government will not consider importing rice as it had promised earlier. Gilbert Nalwa, TV 47.
Thank you so much, Gilbert, for that. And I thought before the other gentlemen then join us, Honorable Kasim Sawatanda, a member of Parliament of Matuga, is here already, just going through his social media platforms and also speaking to Aisha, who does a good job, in managing the activities for Mheshimiwa at the level of the constituency. And she sends me this interesting poster, Mheshimiwa. One would want to argue that this is not the prerogative of a member of parliament, but it's also, good to see leaders that are visionary, leaders that, are understanding and appreciating the family unit. And so in Kwale County, we have the annual mass wedding coming on board on Saturday, the 18th. Yeah. How massive is this mass wedding? And what about it? Because it's quite interesting. And when you say the annual one, it means first one that you're holding?
I started right in 2019.
Yeah.
Of course, we elected in 2017. Of course, there was again the Mandamano. You remember?
Yes,
that time, the repeat presidential election. So, and then that time I was also having some health issues. But by 2019, this is the first edition that we held. What informed this? I think that would be the basic question.
Yeah.
Two things. One, I come from the rural villages where most people live as husband and wife, but not legally married.
Yeah.
Legally, both religiously, and of course, the government, which they don't qualify. And this now took me to the next stage. You know, in the Member of Parliament's office, the CDF component also has a component of social security. My predecessor had not made use of that, but I realized there are so many families who have health issues and they can't afford.
Yeah.
So I started issuing them with the NHF cards. That's the time now, the reality even sank further, that when you want to cover them, you have the husband, he's not legally married to the wife, so the cover cannot cover the wife and the children. So you end up covering one person, and yet this is something that should have covered the whole family. If you give it to the wife, the same thing again happens.
Yeah.
So it's like now you are wasting resources.
Okay.
And of course now the religious bit also comes in. People need to be married officially through the qadis and whatever. So basically that's what informed me. And it's quite encouraging. It's getting bigger and bigger. We are having now over 120 couples. For
this Saturday?
For this Saturday.
Okay.
Initially, it was for Matuga only, because certainly when it comes to issues of social security, I can only deal with Matuga. But I've had requests from Mombasa County, Kwale County, neighboring counties. And it's a challenge this time, but I'm up to the challenge, because I had offered.
Yeah.
I had offered, and the offer still remains, that I'm organizing transport, decent transport for, you know, this is a bride and a bridegroom.
Yes.
This is their day.
Yeah.
Remember, some of these couples are 60 years, 70 years old, so they're not even young couples.
Yeah.
There are few young couples, but the majority are not young couples. These are people with children and grandchildren. So this is the day where I've organized the transport, I've organized the normal pilau and lunch and entertainment and maderas.
Are they inviting their guests? No.
Yeah, of course. If
they
it's at the open ground. That's at Baraza Park. So it's not in a hall where you need a card to say to access the venue. So it's quite interesting. And remember, now we are also
there. I hope you don't mind for us to cover this, because it's quite an
you should cover it, and in case you also have some issues, you can even come and wed. It's open. We are closing registration today, Linda.
So this is for the Muslim brothers or what? Largely yes.
Yeah, largely yes. I've had requests from the Christians, but I've been discussing with them, and there seems to be a bit complicated. You know, ours, you just need a qadi and you can marry all. With the Christian, the challenge which they are having is, I've told them, okay, organize. But you see now they will say, I want to be married by a Catholic priest, this one is Presbyterian, this one. Yeah, so that brings, but if we can reach a point where maybe we make it universal. We get the bishops and whatever, and they marry all of them. It's something I would also want to do, because there are some families also who cannot benefit from the coverage that I'm offering, apart from the religious aspect, the Christian family. So it's something I would want to carry across board.
Wow, this is quite an interesting.
Otherwise, you are invited, Wakili. You can come
if you're not ready,
you can come for the wedding. You can come and wed at Kwale.
I thought before you join us, I should speak about his constituency, Kidogo, just to understand. And I have been there. And, you know, just to see what is going on. And so I was looking at one of the interesting things that he's doing as member
this coming Saturday.
This coming Saturday. He's been organizing mass weddings.
I've been to his constituency.
Yes. I remember the other time you were there. When
he actually invited me to his residence.
Oh, nice.
And he's a very generous man.
You people know each other. But I remember vividly, we did an online interview with you when you were there. Yes.
So he's basically a very generous man.
Yes.
And as you can see, he's extending showing his generosity even to the larger members of the society. I may have wanted to appear in that particular wedding. Even, perhaps even
I have over 120 couples.
Oh, that is great.
So it's a gathering of over 1,000. That's probably 2,000.
That's great, very good. Now, the only problem I have with the wedding being described in the Marriage Act, either the civil marriage or the Christian marriage, is that it came to show like we people did not have weddings before. That you must follow a certain procedure
and have a certain
for you
document.
to be said to be appropriately married. You know, for me, my mind is sometimes in very rudimentary, and my thinking is a bit rudimentary when it comes to social aspects. Because what happened with the coming of Mzungu did all what was within his means, and not just even Mzungu, even the Arabs of Omans. When they came, they thought that we Africans do not have our practices. We do not have our culture. To the extent that they imposed themselves on us. And the same thing that you can see, they are imposing their ways in us. Even these issues of gayism and lesbianism, they are imposing them on us. You see, we need to take the clock backward kidogo. We go to 1948. We ask ourselves, what happened in 1948? In 1948, there was a Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR. You see, that instrument was never required under the Vienna Convention to be ratified by any state. It universally became binding on all the states, as long as a state is duly recognized. So the UDHR then became the source of these other international conventions, like the International Convention on Civil Rights, International Convention on Political and Civil Rights, International Convention on Social and Cultural Rights. Now, the International Convention on Political and Civil Rights is the one that then says that a country cannot be said to be democratic if it doesn't have certain tenets. For example, they are the ones who came up with the issues of the term limits of the presidential term limits. So any state that does not have any element of presidential term limits, according to the ICCPR, it is not considered to be it is not considered to be a democratic state. Now, my problem is not even that. My problem is that they took their democracy and tried to impose it on us without giving us an opportunity to domesticate.
So now that we're here,
that democracy.
Now that we're here,
yes,
and you listen to Mheshimiwa and what he speaks about this document. He says it's very important for them to benefit on the NHIF, you know,
absolutely
arrangements that are there. So that clearly tells you that in the imposition successfully, for that matter, they have gotten us to levels where you understand very well that if you don't have this documentation, you can't do without it. You cannot enjoy some benefits, some privileges of the fact that you. Why?
But you see, I cannot be said to be that I must have prescribed to some certain ways of thinking or life for me to for certain benefits to accrue.
For you to enjoy.
The reason being, whether I have prescribed to that wedding or that ceremony, I am entitled to benefit from that particular, to benefit either from NHIF or anything by virtue of me being a
Kenyan and
even being a human first. Because these human rights are inherent. They're inalienable and inherent. Permit me to just go to the ICCPR, International Convention on Cultural and Social Rights. That one is one that has now said that everybody must be looked at it like we are all human. I agree. And it's the one that is being used by Mzungu to impose his culture on us. Whereas, when you look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and then you look at the International Convention on Social and Cultural Rights, they coined something called cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is a doctrine that says there is no culture that is superior to the other culture. For example, I cannot take Mheshimiwa's culture and say the Kikuyu culture is much more superior than his culture.
But is it not what is happening today?
You see, Wakili.
And there's a lot of that.
You see, Wakili.
Yes.
It's so unfortunate that we've been so brainwashed as we sit here, as we stand here, especially us who've gone to school. You see, there is no logic at all And this, if I'm to take an amendment to Parliament on increasing the number, I'm talking about the coverage of NHF, it limits the number to 5. Why? Because it is also somehow accepted that right now, if you've gone to school, Wakili, you should have 1 or 2 kids. And 5 is like now.
It's now a crowd.
Yeah. But what's wrong with having 10 kids if they are mine?
And they're supposed to be incorporated in this.
And they're not yet, they're all below 25 years, because you can have 10 kids and they're all below 25 years. But you can see, we think that limits. 5 is just even too many. If you are to extend it, why should it cover me and only 1 wife, you know? Like me now, I have 2. My father had 4. My grandfather had 12. And we are happily, as a family, if you come to any social gathering and you call all the grandchildren of my maternal grandfather, we can do a demonstration. You can
vote. You can enjoy the vote in Matuga success.
Yeah, we can change the laws in our village. So, but unfortunately, as with me, you, and let's take the challenge, the 3 of us here. You think that having 7 kids is just too much. You need all 1 or 2. And that is, of course, from the Mzungu. It is now inherent. It's part of us. We think that that's part of us. You think that if your husband, Linda, wants to marry a second wife, you'll walk out, you'll say, this can't happen. It's not the way of life. It's bad. You know. So that is where we are. Where we can start now and doing ourselves, I think that will be the challenge. And
are we intending to undo? I know you want to say something,
to the social scientists now to start see where to start unwinding where we are. But we are totally at a point where
a point of no return, maybe.
Let me put it that way.
Just maybe. And Wakili, I'm glad that you bring us to the aspect of history and where we come from. Allow us to take a quick short break and then come back on that. It's equally very important, contrary to what many would expect for us to land into Baba, Azimio, and all that.
Baba has been there for a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. This is Dr. Frankie tonight. And of course, on to our first guest of the night, an amazing actress, an award-winning actress, one of the top influencers right now, a top brand ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, and a lady who I respected, of course. I'm proud to call her my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, just listening. Are you ready for something there?
Yes.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
Give me something, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kate Kamau, a.k.a. Kate, actress. How much material
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot.
Does it give is it like normal time to wear like 10 minutes? Ama like lazima uipangie.
Hii lazima shida ni kwenda kwa choo hiyo tu.
Yeah. But they come to think of it, madam you and madam of a jumpsuit. How do you guys go to the washroom? How do you guys deal with that?
That's why we go in pairs to the bathroom.
No, men, you never find men going to the washroom in pairs. And where Richie? Richie niaje. Nasikia kusojo. Hebu do you see? I think ladies are so privileged. You guys can even call each other boom, babe, sweetheart. Imagine now I'm now calling Richie. Richie babe, niaje. Unakamjobosa ngapi na saxophone.
But we are okay with that.
Never.
Yeah.
Kate, welcome on the show. You are our first guest ever. Piga makofi. Pia tuko na interior design round hii.
Ini Wajakoya ama
check relax. Usiseme na nguvu we. Nakada wana watch, nakada.
Ni sponsors.
Let me ask, have you ever tried?
No, what is that? No.
Haujawahi? Hata by mistake.
But now I know it because of Wajakoya.
Oh really? So hujaipita kwa campaign ya Wajakoya by mistake ukaisikia? Have you ever tried drugs at any point?
Which one?
You're a clean,
I'm a role model.
Role model. Sawa kwa Listen, do we have enough role models in the industry anymore? Or because I've seen these days people do their own things. They mess up on social media. Then they come and say, listen, I was not born to be a role model. I'm living my own life. Do you think that is the correct way to handle it?
And I think what Akothe says, I did not choose to be a role model. It's my career that inspired you to give me that title. So you cannot give me the pressure to become a role model. That's how you feel. That's how you interpret my brand. But I have to live my life. I'm not telling you to live the way I live. You understand? But I know I have a responsibility as a public figure to act in a certain way.
In a certain way.
But in the same breath, I have to live my life truthfully, being me. If it inspires you, yes.
Well and fine.
If it doesn't, good. Yes.
Let me ask, which is like the most weirdest story you've ever heard about you? Ile mpaka uko like guy. Todie.
Like I'm very mean, I'm a snob. I think I'm too friendly actually. I'm too friendly.
Me, I feel like you choose. You're
not.
Yeah,
that's the problem. But to huyo naweza mlenga nikimuona kama ananibo, right? But when to my fans, and as in when I meet them on the street, I'm anywhere in public spaces, like I can't. Like, do you understand? Let me tell you why.
Yes.
Because I also have people I admire, and I fangirl all the time. If I met Beyonce, you know,
I know you admire me, but
I'd be flattered if I did. I do. So that's the thought process that goes through my head. If I would act the same way, why would I?
Okay. I don't understand why I had to bring up this subject.
It's a very interesting topic.
Are we taking an about turn? We are not about to do that.
We are not about to do that.
Yes.
But we are only questioning why Mzungu is cherry picking.
Yeah.
That is cherry picking in the sense that now homosexuality, lesbianism, and gayism is almost becoming a norm.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you become so much vehement, if you oppose it vehemently, they do what they did to Governor Sonko. They lock you down your Facebook.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But now ask yourself, when you go to our laws, when you go to our laws and the Marriage Act, and you look at the Penal Code, and I want to implore Mheshimiwa to go and have a look at it. Any person currently who gets married in the church and marries another woman who is not in the church will have committed a crime called bigamy. In America or in the UK, for you to remarry, you need to divorce that other wife and marry another one. If you marry two wives in the UK or in America, you're taken to jail because of bigamy. But remember, for you to marry a second wife, you have to defranchise the first wife. So the first wife has to go. The first family had to be defranchised. So you to get another family. I mean, we Africans must start to think as Africans. We must start to retrace our Pan-Africanism aspects. So that then we ask ourselves, where are we and where were we and where are we currently? So that then we join hands with the fellow Africans to claim for our rightful place in this God's kingdom. Because we have been treated as if we are second-hand. We have been treated as if we are not worthy. Whatever is superior from Mzungu is what is in us. And this must also begin from our home. You know, in my house, I have a practice. When my children come from school and they get to my gate, they must speak their mother tongue.
Must?
Yes, it's a rule in my house. They must speak it. Because that is the way they'll first of all get the identity.
All through.
And in higher schools.
You know, Linda, that is so important. And I think the Mzungus managed by imposing their language on us. Now, we are having the elephant in the room. The Chinese now have started, there is now even a Chinese syllabus. So we are now moving to the Chinese colonization by just language. And if you are to start by thinking and getting your identity, language is so important.
So what language do?
The Wazungus never bothered to learn Kikuyu. They never bothered to learn Kidigo when they came here. The Arabs never bothered.
The Chinese are not even bothering.
The Chinese are not bothered. Ask yourself why. But they are now imposing their languages on us, and certainly that's the surest way of getting us on board to do what they want. Sooner or later, we'll say now there is hunger. Hata nyoka kumbe si mbaya. In fact, it's very tasty. Hata even a frog. We have a few frogs around here. Kumbe si
and they're enjoying. The crocodiles are being enjoyed at the snakes anyway. But wait a minute. So Wakili says this, but let's expound the debate even further. And you know, I'm glad that Professor is joining us shortly on this one. Perhaps will be the one who closes it. So what happens to these families that, they're intermarried, from a different tribe, a different society? What do their children speak the moment they get to the gates?
There's nothing wrong.
Those ones would be privileged. You see, if I were to marry a Kikuyu, they would be privileged, in fact. They have they can speak Kidigo, and they can also speak Kikuyu, so you have the... In fact, those ones will be more privileged, instead of saying, now let them speak English, because none of us is a Mzungu there. So why should we just pick a foreign language? But it doesn't only stop there. You know, it actually kills the innovation. Because a kid now who is supposed to join primary, he has to learn a foreign language. That's the time, if we was to use the language that he knows, the mother tongue or the father tongue, whatever it is, he can start now, innovation, he can start thinking about other things. But now, that kid is so busy trying to learn English. That kid is so busy trying to learn French, you know. While at the same time, the French kid is doing other things, is not bothered about language. I think this is where we are getting it wrong.
Well,
you know.
I think because I know you will not want Professor to wade in
and we close and get to a different one, but yes.
You see, for me, you first of all get your identity by identifying from where you come from. The moment you lose your language, the moment you lose your mother tongue, you've completely lost your identity. And if in that school, they're also incorporating the CBC. And you know, the CBC is a provision that children are supposed to learn their mother tongue. So me, I wrote to the teacher, Abaru, nikamuliza, there is this aspect, there is this policy in the CBC. When are you starting teaching these children their mother tongue? I did write to that. Reason being, my child being identified as a Kikuyu is important to me. Is important. People think it is retrogressive, but it is important for me because it first of all gives that person some sense of identity.
I would largely want to agree to that, and I think I've had this conversation just recently, right here on set, as the fact that really we have lost it in terms of culture.
Yeah.
I don't know what language in terms of the mother tongue, father tongue, like we rightfully put it, my little one will speak. I do not know. As it is myself, I can't speak my mother tongue, to perfection as should be. In fact, it's people will laugh at me when I am doing that, and it's quite shameful. Professor,
no, it's
are we...
not shameful. People think now you are the most civilized.
Yes.
It's not shameful.
Is it not the truth?
Yeah, people now will think now you are the most civilized.
We're classy and all
That's
that.
the problem. And the Kenyan society that we have right now.
Mweshima is very right.
Yeah.
You're also very right. It is very shameful for you.
It is. I agree.
Not to be able to speak.
I agree. But I can speak. But at least I try. Having been raised here, I can speak, and sometimes I am like surprising myself. It's a good thing.
Professor Ngugi these days is writing in his mother tongue.
Yes.
If you want to read his book,
go
and have the one that is interpreted. There's the one that at a time he was receiving an award, I think from Katorina.
Yes. When he said it's good to...
When he was receiving that award from Katorina, he addressed the world in his mother tongue. And it was being interpreted.
Yeah.
And Professor will tell you today, if you go for Addis Ababa, a meeting in Addis Ababa today, there will be somebody interpreting for you.
Yes.
So why can't I address you in Kikuyu? And then it's going to be interpreted.
Professor, are we living in denial? And I know you might want to know
you being a Kamba?
Where we're coming
nothing
from.
wrong.
Professor, you might want to know where we're coming from. But, Wakili Ndegwa here as well brings the historic perspective as to how we got here. We're just, addressing what is going to play out in Kwale County. That is Mheshimiwa's area. And so he's conducting a mass wedding, just to appreciate that aspect of, and that is looked at as culture. I don't understand how. But Wakili here and him as well are of the argument that we've borrowed so much from Mzungu, such that we've lost who we are. Are we living in denial in this time and age where there is intermarriage, you marry from a different country and all that? Can we still be having this conversation or this debate or this argument that, we have to have our kids speak in their mother tongue? And is it realistic anyway?
Well, thank you. First of all, culture is dynamic. It is not stagnant. And it is influenced by all the forces at play at any time.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, Kenya is a British construct. Even the borders we have, they are all British created.
Yeah.
And the people in it were lumped together by the British to become one when serving colonial interests. So you are all natives. Okay? It's only when the Mzungu had to go, then he emphasized that we are different tribes to fight to continue fighting. Now, the reality is that this construct, which is about roughly 100 years or so, has had successes and failures. It has created problems of identity. Because at one time, one wondered whether he is a Kenyan or Kikuyu or Luo or Digo, which is which. So you are all Kenyans because you are confined in the territory called Kenya. And within it, then you are divided into
different
categories, depending on social interaction. And because of that social interaction, you give each other different identities. Because an identity is not a one-way traffic. It's the way people see you and the way you see yourself. And so if you agree, then that becomes stuck. And so if you are Linda, because you agree that you are Linda, another people agree that you are Linda.
Yeah.
So when you say Linda, they all, you are. But if you don't agree you are Linda, and you say Linda and you're looking at,
who is Linda?
There's a disconnect somewhere. So yes, we do have a problem of particularly as we interact, people in Nairobi and other urban areas. It's difficult to insist that this is your mother, or this is the language, this is your identity. Because in fact, you know, one of the problems we have right now, our IDs sometimes have become problems.
Yeah.
Children raised in Nairobi or Mombasa, and then they are told that their home is some village where they have never been there. And it creates confusion. Yeah. So maybe there is need for re-looking at the whole identity issue. Yeah. Apart from the people here, born here, we also have migrants, particular people who have settled here. And they have a problem now. What are they? Are they Kenyan? Or are they wherever they came from? And especially if they are people of mixed colors, the children, what are they? I've had to deal with that sometimes. Because you have now, people have come up. And so when you stressing some particular identity, they get lost. Let's say children of mixed. I think it was Dunstan Mungatana one time who was joking about his mother, his father, his wife, his children. What are they? So there is a need for discussion. Yes, there is value in knowing the background, one's background. And yes, Ngogi had that nice time in Spain. He was invited. They were also making a point because they organized that they can go there and speak, give a presentation and then they translate. It was a well-organized thing. But they were also agreeing to make a point. In the sense that in Catalonia, they would like to, in fact, they claim that they are not Spanish.
Yes.
And so it was, they were making that point. For the rest of us, we know that Barcelona is part of Spain.
It's part of Spain.
But the people in Barcelona insist they are not Spanish. And they tell you, no, Spanish, that's people in Madrid.
Yeah.
It's Castile, but not. Do you want to get to that point where you are really quarreling over things like that, which is what is going on in Spain, actually.
Yeah.
So identity is a serious challenge, but it is evolving.
Yeah.
And I agree with Wakili, yes, it's good for our children to speak like us, and to have some values that we think are important.
Yeah.
It is also a folly to imagine that there will not be changes.
Yeah.
There will be,
yes. There will always be changes.
There will be changes, sometimes not for the better.
Unfortunately, but
what we need to do is to safeguard the good things, knowing that there will be pressures for the bad things to get in.
Yeah.
What we do about it is, and that's why we need to have a proper evolution of Kenyan culture, whatever you can call it that. Then there will be no problem as to what it is that people should be doing. And the purpose of education, what is it? Essentially, is to perpetuate ourselves. Make sure that we can look after ourselves. So the education we give our children should not only perpetuate us, should also enable us to look after ourselves in a way that we like, not to become carbon copies of some people in England or the United States.
Linda, it's not just about the education or the language. It's even about the dressing, the way we dress, which is totally voluntary. Nobody buys you a suit and nobody buys you. But you can see even the way we are here, our viewers will be asking, why is Professor not in a coat and a tie? Company? You know, it is as if it is the coat and the tie which speaks or which thinks. And they will think now our kid is properly dressed. These others, you know, and yet we all went to our shops, used our own man and bought. So this thing, Professor, and I think you are better placed to probably start this journey of decolonizing our mind, because that is where we are, you see. From even the way we eat, you see, if we are to go to a restaurant and I start using my hand, one would start questioning, now where is this one? Is he in Nairobi?
A whole mheshimiwa.
Yeah, would start saying, he thinks he's in the village. This is Java, this is wherever. You know, you can't eat like that. And he's putting, you can't eat like that. It's a rule that at this place, if you go to Serena, then you need to get all the cutlery and all that is there for you to eat. You know, so this is a big problem. It's not helping us. It's not helping us in advancement. It's not helping us in innovation, because we keep on thinking about what has been imposed on us, where to them it's not a problem, but now we take our time to learn. Which is totally not necessary. The same time that we'll use to learn other things, which will be beneficial.
We'll make the best of what we have. Can you close it?
I'll certainly know that it's a very interesting topic. We need a whole day
to discuss that. I agree.
Professors here. And I really love the way these Professor Mwashimwa are putting it across. It's the time that we need to rewind ourselves. And of course, pick that which was good in our culture, and whatever that was repugnant, we can forego. But it is very important for our people to learn their culture, learn their language, because language carries their culture, it carries their practices, it carries their behavior, it influences their behavior. I've been listening keenly to Professor P.L.O. Lumumba. He's going all over Africa giving lectures on how we can regenerate Africa. And he's really, really focused on that particular topic, on the regeneration of Africa. And in his many lectures that he's giving, he's taking people on a serious journey of trying to tell people where we came from and where we are. If people could listen to Professor here and people like Professor P.L.O., they would realize it is you're not a lesser human being for you to believe in your culture. You'll believe that our God, whether you call him Jesus Christ, whether you call him Allah, whether you call him Gai, whether you call him Mulungu or Nyasai, was not an inferior God. Because Professor J.S. Beatty in his book is asking, how could it be that when God was creating the world, he only chose to create God in Europe and forget to create God in Africa? And then he says, how comes that God only chose that the sun will only rise in Europe and it will never rise in Africa? So he was just trying to tell the people in his book that you are not inferior. Our culture is not inferior. And I've taken that route quite keenly, because whenever we are going for Kiama Kiawaze, I take my sons. I go with them because they must understand their roots.
Wow, interesting. Gentlemen, let's close that one for a moment. I think I don't want to call it a Pandora's box, but it's indeed something that we need to consider.
No, actually, there is,
well, yes, Professor. There's a wedding, just in case.
Saturday. Okay. No, it's good people to get married.
Right.
How they do it is another matter. But there is this issue, the nagging one. The question of who decides or interprets for the Africans. It is an issue that has been there for more than a century, because the colonial state, the onset of the colonial state, one of the major objectives was to contaminate the mind of the African in such a way that he does not believe in himself. And if he does not believe in himself, then he believes in the Mzungu.
Right.
And there comes the question, who decides what's good for Africa or the Africans? And if you look at the whole decolonization issue, was on that issue. Who decides? From the time black elites started meeting in 1900 to deal with that issue, throughout the whole thing, who decides, who has a right to decide what the interest of the African is? That struggle is an intellectual one. And then it cascades downwards to the material then. And we have it right now, it's a problem right now. We do have some of our leaders, whether in the universities or in the political arena, who will not do anything before they consult the Mzungu.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's the mindset. And like Ngoge has been mentioned, it's one of the things he really struggles for is to decolonize the mind, such that I do not need somebody in London or New York or Moscow, Beijing or whatever to tell me what is my interest. In fact, it is a tragedy that I'll be getting advice from somebody else on what my interest is, because that's in the 1930s and 40s, when people in Kenya were demanding that the representative of the African should be an African. It used to be a Mzungu.
Yes.
And they say, no.
Enough.
It should be an African. Now, yes, the issue of the God, and whether there are multiple gods, I think there is only one God, but different ways of looking at it.
Different names.
Yes. Yeah, it's something that has been going on. We know that the current Pope Francis is accommodating to the idea that your God could also be valid. Not just one version.
Yes.
And it's also been an issue that has been going there since the 17th century.
Yes.
We had people saying, wait a minute, who told you that your version is the only the correct one?
The correct one.
Because unless you are God yourself, you don't know. So it's possible that God created entities, multiple entities for different purposes, and they all converge up there. So there is a lot of questioning going on as to whether what we have been told is necessarily true.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Okay, let's close this.
Professor is provoking our mind.
Please, let's not extend it further. In fact, I wanted to take a quick short break, but before then, Arror, Itare, Arror, Kimwarer, and yes, Itare, Dam are rowing back. Wakili.
It's an opportunity to steal.
That is the best you can say.
It's our time to eat. It's our time to eat.
That is the best you can say.
I don't think I would agree with Wakili.
Yeah.
I think we should be looking at the project
and
then seeing, can we tweet better if there are some loopholes to be covered?
And they have active cases in court.
These are dams. Do the people the people around Arror, Kimwarer, and Itare, do they need water?
They do.
Yeah, that is the question, because those people are still there. For how long are they going to wait for the court cases and whatever? These people need water. They need water, one, for their domestic use. They need water for farming. They need water for all sorts of things. So to me, that were the basic things. Whatever Wakili is saying could be right, but those are things that can be fixed or should be fixed. They should not have happened, and they should not happen even in the Kenya Kwanza government. If they happen, it's criminal, and of course, the necessary steps should be taken. But for as long as people need water, I think let the dams be constructed.
However immoral and corrupt our leaders can be, some of them mentioned or implicated in some of these active cases of the Arror, Kimwarer, and Itare Dam, really they can get to a point where then again it's another moment to steal and enjoy and get into the public coffers and.
It is unfortunate that there is truth to that
statement.
Yes, there is some truth.
Some truth.
Not all
some possibility.
because it has happened before.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate part. But I think the resumption of the construction in itself is not bad. What we need to protect is the possible theft, and which also requires a lot of investigation as to what happened or did not happen.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of gray areas in these things, and it's easy to make accusations. I don't know whether was it the controller of budget or the guardian of the expenditures.
Yes.
What did she say?
Nyakango. Yes, the controller of budget.
The one who examines the books.
Auditor
The
General.
Auditor General. Yes.
I don't know whether she was quoted right, saying that those who steal maybe should be encouraged to invest here.
Yeah. Allow us to take a short break. That's actually what she said. Allow them to steal, so at least, and then invest at home.
And we shall pick up from where Prof is.
All right, so we take a short break first.
And we also look at the kind of the institution we have. What worries me is the institutions that we have. But the institutions that we have become so much complacent that they have become the conveyor belt to facilitate theft in this country.
In the country.
In the sense that they are not living up to their creed. And living up to their creed means that they are supposed to enhance and ensure there is accountability and transparency. And then for them, those that have actually breached those transparency and accountability norms are then taken to court. And once taken to court, the due process commences. And and upon commencing, the same is not prematurely terminated. So in my view, currently we do not have institutions in Kenya that can guard against any theft of public resources in this country. Of course, I'll give my justifications upon return.
All right, upon return, we take a quick short break and then we come understand the institutions, the systems, as well as the individuals that we put to man these very institutions and whether indeed they guarantee us some essence of credibility when it comes to public resources after this break.
Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. This is Dr. Frankie tonight. And of course, on to our first guest of the night. An amazing actress, an award-winning actress, one of the top influencers right now, a top brand ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, and a lady who I respected, of course. I'm proud to call her my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, just listening. Are you ready for something there?
Yes.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
Give me something, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kate Kamau, a.k.a. Kate, actress. How much material
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot.
Does it give like, is it like normal time to wear like 10 minutes?
Asha.
Ama like lazima uipangie.
Hii lazima shida ni kwenda kwa choo hiyo tu. Yeah.
But they come to think of it, madam of a jumpsuit. How do you guys go to the washroom? How do you guys deal with that
That's
whole
where
thing?
we go in pairs to the bathroom.
No, men, you'll never find men going to the washroom in pairs. And where Richie? I think ladies are so privileged. You guys can even call each other boo, babe, sweetheart. Imagine now I'm now calling Richie. Hey, Richie, babe. Saxophone.
But we are okay with that.
Never.
Yeah.
Kate, welcome on the show. You are our first guest ever. Pick up my coffee. Tuko na interior design round hii.
Nini wajakoya ama?
Check, relax. Usiseme na nguvu, we. Nakada wana watch, nakada.
Ni sponsors.
Let me ask, have you ever tried?
No, what is that? No.
Haujawahi? Under by mistake.
But now I know it because of Wajakoya.
Oh, really? So hujaipita kwa campaign ya Wajakoya by mistake ukaisikia? Have you ever tried drugs at any point?
Which one?
You're a clean,
I'm a
good
role
girl.
model.
Role model. Sawa kwa Listen, do we have enough role models in the industry anymore? Or because I've seen
platforms, which is live, 22047 is the SMS short code. You can as well call us live. The numbers will be running down on your screen. The gentleman in studio, Professor Macharia Munene, constitutional lawyer Ndegwa Njiru, as well as Member of Parliament of Matuga, Honorable Kasim Sawa Tandaza. And the conversation, I mean, we'll always move from one topic to another. But as at now, we are looking at the rolling back of Arror, Kimwarer and Itari Dam, which one would look at as a plus, but at the same time, questions linger as to what are the possibilities then. It will be a clean process all the way until, yes, the people within these vicinities or the people that were supposed to be served by these very dams then get the maximum benefit out of it. I'll take this statement or this clarion call or this campaign that has been reminded to us by a professor here, that is from the Auditor General Nancy Gathungu, about 3 weeks ago, who says, steal it from Kenyans, invest it in Kenya, urges the Auditor General Nancy Gathungu. Perhaps looks like a good thing to say. And you've also had PLO at some point in time and many other people alluding to the fact that most of us will always say that huyu ni mwizi wetu. So ameiba lakini ni wetu, so let's protect them. And we have seen this happening in the country so much. So Wakili asks, just how able are the institutions that we've placed to make sure that they guard the resources for the people of Kenya? I will extend this by equally asking the institutions, the systems, and the individuals that we install in this very.
Look, just before they weighed in, look at the procedure that the Mr. William Ruto is employing to replace Archbishop Wabukora.
Mm-hmm.
He came up with a list of 3 names.
Yes.
You saw that letter?
Yes, yes, yes.
And then from those 3 names, who are his preference, we are supposed to choose from whoever is supposed to appoint, is supposed to appoint one of the 3 names being proposed by the person who is, by institutions who are suspected of having embezzled or will embezzle. They have the high propensity to embezzle these funds. Instead of leaving it to an independent process to reconstitute that office, the office is being reconstituted by the executive.
It will be hard to oversee.
How will it execute its mandate of overseeing that corruption will not thrive?
Why do you assume that there's going to be corruption?
Yeah, simply, well, I do not have any reason to doubt that there will be corruption. Because people in this country, they have this culture. Not just these people who are in the current administration. Any other administration. People get into public service to steal, not to serve. Whether you are in ODM, whether you are in UDA, whether you are in Jubilee, the first mentality that gets into your mind is that now I've become a member of parliament, I must be able to control the CDF. I've become the minister, I must be able to control the kitty. It doesn't matter whether you are in UDA administration, Jubilee administration, PNU administration, KANU administration, or KADU. And it's happening all over Africa. Because we have been told that there are some certain standards that we must be able to exhibit for you to be perceived to be democratic. The other day I was giving you the reason why CAS was created, Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, that was first led by Honorable Mwau. It was created when Moi was pushed to the wall
by the
IMF and the World Bank, and he was told, if you need us to give us your money, you must create this organ, because this organ will be the mirror to indicate that you are transparent and accountable. But for the 20 years or 30 years that EACC has been in place, have they been able to help and facilitate Kenyans achieve their objective, protect their sovereignty by protecting their resources? Zero game.
Are we hypocritical in nature, Mheshimiwa? Because these institutions we have formed, these systems we have formed, these individuals we have vetted and, nominated, vetted, appointed to these levels of office. I mean, and we constantly remind ourselves that really there's no one that is a saint. So what are we trying to say? That we do not have a nation? I mean, can't we have some element of hope that we can sanitize some of these institutions? Can't we trust the current government or the current regime to deliver for the people of Kenya? Do we continue to go with this negative mentality, and to where?
Linda, when it comes to the issue of corruption, I look at it from 2 fronts. One, the leadership have been on record saying that samaki was there kuanzia kwa kichwa, it's all rests with the CEO, it all rests with the head of an institution. I'm consistent on that, and that's the reality. But on this particular matter also, let's look at the society, Linda. You see, these are people from the society. it's not somebody picked, you know, just a few minutes ago we were talking about how we've been colonized and we think that the Mzungu, you know, these are institutions headed by Africans, headed by Kenyans from all over the country. They could be from Luo Nyanza, they could be from Mandera, but within the country. So at one point, the saddest part of this whole saga about corruption is that more or less the leaders tend to mirror the society, because these are people from the society. And I think at one point, just a few minutes ago, I think you were off air when you said that it has reached to a point where the ordinary mwananchi also thinks that stealing or corruption is fashionable. That is what should happen. I think that is the saddest part, and the saddest part and the hardest part now to deal with that point where the ordinary mwananchi also celebrates corruption. But when it comes to those who are leading the different institutions, and it's not about ESCC, we are talking about the judiciary. There are some cases which have been taken to courts. Clearly, we know that this somebody should just go to jail, but somewhere along the line is acquitted, and if maybe that case is handled at the High Court, it goes to the Appellate Court, and then on technicalities, this person is let free. And we know it's not on technicalities. Money just changes hands.
Yeah.
It changes hands. That's the problem. And the judiciary, the investigative arms of the government, we are all corrupt. These are all Kenyans. But to me, this can all end if the CEO wants this to end. Because we have cases in other countries where they were very corrupt, but at one point, when you talk about the Asian tigers and the economic growth, you see, they basically tackled corruption. So it's not that it cannot be done, but it will start with the CEO. Now,
there's
with
totally
the
a negative
now, with the
perception.
current one, barely 6 months in office,
a negative perception from a majority of the
yeah,
people.
of course, when the baggage has been there for too long, you cannot remove it all of a sudden. It's just the same way. The economic situation that we are in now, it would be myopic to think that this could have been done in 100 days or in 1 week or in 6 months. You know, it has been there for so long.
Yeah.
But I think now the CEO, the current CEO of this country, that is His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, has that opportunity now to start few steps, but in the right direction. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. So it should start from the recruitment. Was the recruitment of, is it Bishop Ongide followed to the letter?
Ogide, yes.
Ogide, was it followed? I think that is what we should do. Unless now we want to change the recruitment process, which is the law. Now we are talking about the recruitment of the IBC commissioners. Is the law being followed? Because one will have to act within the law. If the law is being followed, then you cannot again fault the appointing authority unless now we change the law. That is where we should start. And I think the current parliament is also up to the task. Wakili.
Let me just mention,
Wakili, yes.
I want to pass it to
Just to
Professor
make
and tell him
our
it doesn't matter how long the administration has been in office.
Yes.
In where I come from, we have a saying, and I know Professor will expound on it, that yakubea ebeaga na mambere. Kama utaweka maharagwe
kwa jiko, kama ni ya kuiva itaiva tu, na ile maji utaweka ya kwanza ikichemuka. Ukisema inataka kuongeza maji ya pili, ya tatu, mara ya tatu, ya nne, hiyo haitaweza kuiva. And are we sensationalizing this whole matter? I mean, looking at what it is that Mheshimiwa says, perhaps we should give the current government some more time. Wakili then argues, you know what, you are there. We are able to detect whether we are headed to the right direction. They are, adamant that we are headed to the right direction. I mean, can we trust them? Can we, say, let's give them some time to see whether there's going to be some change for
No, there is value in giving them a little time.
Yeah.
But that does not excuse what is happening. And the imagery here, it's not the amount of time that they've been in office, it's what they are seen to be doing, which is the issue. We also have to take into account that everything that happens is political. There are people who are immune in this country. And they're immune because of political realities. And so you can say you are following the law, but the law can be said to be not very good.
Yeah, we all know what it can be said to
use a different word. but we have changed the law because of politics. When we put this constitution together, and there were a lot of arguments here and there and there. Yeah. One of the things we kicked out immediately was the court. We kicked out the court. Not because it was not doing its job, but because it was perceived not to be proper. So poor Gishar was kicked out. Yeah. And then we put up some new things, and now we are complaining about the same thing. So it's the politics of it. And until we have our political players, the leaders, the people who wield a lot of influence, believing in the institutions, because they don't. They don't believe in the institutions they create. And therefore, after some time, confidence in those institutions disappears. Mheshimiwa says here that yes, the route has been following the law as it is. Fair enough. But that's not the politics. The politics is out there. By, let's say, not stop beating about the bush. Raila is immune. Okay? He's immune. He does whatever he wants. And
Guna pays the brand.
Yeah, so and he was whatever. Somebody else try that. You find yourself in a lot of trouble. So the image of there being some people who are immune and who can do anything and get away with it, then also brings some problem, because if somebody else wants to do the same thing and he stops, say, why are you stopping me? And so does it. Yeah. Now, Raila has declared that Monday is a holiday.
Yes.
Okay? He has no authority to do that. But there are a lot of people who are going to follow him because he said it. Now, did Wakil here might tell us why he has broken the law. But as far as I know, it's only some government offices that are supposed to declare that sort of thing. Maybe Kendiki's office. But he has done it, and there will be no repercussions to it.
You think?
No, there will be none.
You think?
Yeah, not I think.
You know.
I know.
100%. Is it going to get to that level?
He will not be asked about it.
You see,
is it going to get to that level before we? And I don't know whether we go to this one, or first of all, yes.
You know, Professor is Professor.
Yes.
And is raising a very legitimate question of double standards in the manner in which the law is applied.
Okay.
In my view, if you want to be a country that is led by the rule of law, there must be equal application of the law. And that is what is dictated by Article 10 of the Constitution, and that is further dictated by Article 27. Article 27 of the Constitution provides that everybody is equal before the law and enjoys equal benefit of that particular law, and nobody shall be discriminated in this republic. So there is uniformity in the manner in which the law applies. And that is a paradigm shift from what the practice and the culture, political culture we had with the 1963 Constitution, and Professor will affirm this, when we had individuals being above the law. Now we have dictated to ourselves and decreed to ourselves that we shall have equal application. That means if a particular person is arrested and being charged with an offense, irrespective of your status, you are supposed to go through the due process. It doesn't matter whether the case was politically instigated, politically influenced. There is the arbiter, who is the court and the judiciary, that is supposed to come and say, there are no facts to find this person guilty. And that upon that finding, that particular organ that we have created acquits. But what did we see? We saw individuals being immunized from the due process. And then further to that, we saw institutions like the court sitting pretty and saying we have nothing to do about this issue. For example, when it comes, say for example, the question of election petition, I was in one particular case whereby we had about 10 witnesses coming to say candidate X, who is the current member of parliament, bribed me personally. We played videos in court indicating, of course he was a UDA candidate, indicating that he was actually captured by camera giving a bribe. Then a political compromise is done between the petitioner and the respondents, and the case is withdrawn. Then I ask the court, it's good for parties to agree, yes, but is this court helpless to the extent that they do not have to evaluate the gravity of the offense that we are saying has been created? Are you saying that this court has no capacity of trying to guard the people's sovereignty, in the sense that you will have people in parliament who acquired and procured their seat through means of fraud, contaminating legislations in parliament? And the court couldn't answer that. Why? Because the court that we have, the judiciary that we have currently, is in bed with the executive.
You think it is so?
No, not. And that is why, when the applications for withdrawal of the cases like that of Mr. Kashagwa, Madam Aisha Jumwa, and the cohorts were brought in court, the court could not sit and evaluate and see whether this is in the public interest.
Is that by design, you think?
It is by design. What the court did was, is this in the interest of the power that be? Instead
some of these cases we've been following and are in the public domain. As a lawyer, you must have had the privilege of seeing some of the evidence that is being presented there.
Yes.
You suppose that this is evidence that is worth incriminating this?
And I tell you, Linda, the only person who has the capacity in this republic
is the court
of evaluating whether the case has met the requisite threshold for a conviction or for an acquittal is the court.
You know, even we that have not gone to law school, sometimes you listen to proceedings, and including the proceedings of the elections, you can almost tell where this is headed without going to...
But you can't pass a verdict.
You can't pass a verdict. And so why would you conclude that the court was not able to establish some of this?
Because it never allowed the case to go full cycle.
Okay, yes, now that also is another thing. But here we go. Puzzle of stolen IBC poll kits. Perhaps
before I go there, just one point on Wakili. Wakili seems to be selectively, and is the one who is supposed to guide us. When it comes to this particular case of bribery, and I stand here to be corrected, I'm not a Wakili myself. The giver and the taker are all guilty, if proven, isn't it?
Correct.
Now that you are so passionate about the court having not taken that case, have you taken back your witnesses back to court for having...
Good question.
For having...
Yes, I have gone to the court.
Now you can stand the moral ground and say, okay, that is... But this one agreed that he was bribed, he's guilty, and can he also...
Oh, good question. I have gone to the DCI. I have recorded my complaint that 10 witnesses appeared in court and said that they were bribed by XYZ. So I want to see what the DCI will do.
This is on the elections?
Yes, on the election.
And the main elections, or
the main elections?
Not the presidential.
And the evidence is
not
on
the presidential.
Record. Not the presidential.
Not the presidential. This
was a member of parliament.
Or a member of
and
parliament.
the evidence is on record, and the court has recorded that. I want to see what the DCI will do.
You know, Linda, on balance, some of these sensitive things are looked at in terms of national interest. Legal technicalities may be there, but they do not surpass national survival. Okay? So the people in the position of decision making have to weigh these things all the time. What is the move?
Public interest and all this.
Public interest. If you do this, is this likely to happen or not? And if it is likely to happen, are you ready for that happening? And most of the time they are not ready. So they start saying, well, maybe let's think about it again. We have seen it recently, that scenario playing. Do you press somebody or not? Even if you think you have, whatever it is. Because they have a lot of following, large following. And with the snap of the finger, you can have the whole of Nairobi looking like Mogadishu. Do you really want to go that far, to that point? I mean, those are the things that come up on this thing. Let me also add the question of institutions and leadership. The unfortunate thing about Kenya and many other countries is poor and reliable leadership. Unreliable because it is either incompetent or mischievous, or both. That they do not have the interest of the country at hand, or the institution. So that's why some of them would go there and start looting. And if they are not looting, they are condoning the looting. And which is, destroying the very thing that they are trying to run. And although it is, sometimes we elect these people, we do elect them. Sometimes we don't. They just happen to be there.
Right.
And they have so much power. They can get away with anything. And then you complain, they say, utadu.
Yeah, unfortunately. And when you speak of this, Professor, I want to take it away from you briefly and take it back to Mheshimiwa here. What it is that he alludes to, that sometimes it's about the interest of the common mwananchi. And these verdicts are passed. But the most unfortunate thing is when some of these things crop up later, things like this, puzzle of stolen IEBC polls, that we have had legal battles in court, from that time of 2013 in relation to, malpractices as to the question of the election. And then, somehow the verdicts have been passed, either as making others happy, hacking others. And here we are, we get other revelations that indicate indeed there were aspects of malpractice. How do we go around this? If in as much as we all agree that the laws or the wheels of justice will grind slowly, don't you think it's circles that really Kenyans do not want to be taken through, and any other individuals who'd be angling for justice?
Linda, I totally agree with my co-panelists here that corruption in Kenya is everywhere. It is in the judiciary, it is in the executive, it is in the law society of Kenya, it is everywhere. And as started by saying, basically it reflects the community. Basically, that's what the community, there's this adage, which I agree with, you get the leader that you deserve, you see. But having said that, that does not mean that we should continue that way. And that's why I put it squarely on the current president, who has shown willingness anyway to stamp out corruption. But looking at this headline, which you want me to comment on, puzzle of stolen IBC polls kits. I have a problem with this headline, Linda, and I don't know whether you've read what is inside here.
Yes.
But to me, it is just sensational at this particular point. It talks between 2013
and 2021.
And 2021.
And that's why I said, let us not think about the 2022 general election, but generally look at that.
But the way it has put is that now it's supposed to be
2022.
That it was affecting the election of 2022.
But you know very well that preparations were on for the election of 2022 by the time it was 2021. And so in a way, they could connect.
No, if you are to read this story and actually analyze it, there should be no connection between these stolen items and the performance of or the conducting of the 2022 general election.
But even
these equipment stolen, were they replaced?
But even still, the 2013, so in between, what exactly is this? Because even the 2013
it only points out to one thing, that our legal system is actually frustrating, inept, and functional, basically, because for equipments having been stolen in 2013 up to now, still making headlines with nobody having been taken to court literally. I've read the story inside, talks that one officer was dismissed. And to me, that should not have been the right thing even for IBC. If somebody is holding such sensitive equipment and it gets lost or is stolen, you don't dismiss that officer. You take him to court and go the whole due process. But you can see whatever, but it starts from 2013. And for this matter now, did it affect? Because the whole effect of this story is to show that actually there could be malpractices in 2022. But of course, these were equipments which were replaced. You see, it is money that was lost, the government taxpayers' money which was lost, of course. That should not have happened, but these were replaced. The elections were conducted in Kisumu. At no polling station is it mentioned here that the voter went and was told, we don't have the DVR kit, or we don't have this because it was stolen.
You've not read the story. We need to give
reviews.
Yes.
They were stolen in 2013.
Yes.
But the impression that was created that the people who took those things had the ability to use them
anywhere.
Okay.
If two computers and you're seated here and you...
So the data...
And any time, maybe.
At any time.
Yes.
So there may be that your fingerprints are taken, and so that's valid. But then these people supposedly could still get in using these machines.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the impression.
That's a fair.
And whether it was in 2013 or 2022, it's a very disturbing element.
Yeah. For sure.
We were told in 2013 that nothing wrong can happen. We were told the same thing in 2017.
Yeah.
We were told the same thing in 2022. Huh? And then after the fact, then you are told, no, something happened.
Yeah.
Huh? And in fact, when the bios were being introduced, is to ensure that nothing happens, which I think is a good thing anyway.
Yeah.
And the experts, the IT people, were the ones who are saying nothing can happen.
Yeah.
Politicians, when they thought they were going to win, nothing can happen.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a routine. And now this story coming now looks as if it's an attempt to create those doubts, not only about 2013, 2017,
about 2017
and
as
2022.
Well.
You know?
Same commissioners.
And take it to Monday.
Oh, same commission, so to speak.
And
And take it
to Monday.
I don't know what the professor is done with his submissions.
Yeah.
So that I can just take you down the memory lane. One, we are not told, and the IBC has never told, whether there was any technological shift between the technology, the election technology that we used in 2013 and the one that we used in 2022. To the extent that we lack that benefit of knowledge to understand whether there was any shift, paradigm shift from the technology used in 2013. And then to the extent that we have gadgets used in an election in the hands of people whom we do not know who or where they are, then you cannot say that the integrity of the election was secured.
Yeah.
You cannot say that the process was secure, you cannot say that it was transparent, and you cannot say it was verifiable, to the extent that we do not know who was in custody of that particular gadget, and to what mischief it was applied in the subsequent election. And my premise is on that, if the technology never changed. So if the technology never changed, because IBC has not submitted on that, and therefore my presumption that it never changed, then the election was infiltrated and contaminated by external parties. Now, don't you also forget that to the run-up the elections in 2022, there were guys who were arrested in JKIA with having materials that belongs to the IBC. And some of these materials were laptops. And then you should also forget that one of the tenets of a free and fair election is that the election itself must be secure. So we cannot just say that this was 2013, because the IBC prepares for the elections. It's a rolling wheel.
Yeah.
That is why it's a permanent commission. But also remember that the IBC Act requires the commission to file a report of the elections 6 months after the election. This report that was filed in the 2013 election does not capture this theft. The report that the IBC, in all their periodic and numerous press conferences, they never disclosed to the members of the public that XYZ is missing. That issue was never even taken to Parliament. Perhaps if it found itself in a manner, in a platform that could have generated debate, there could have been questions whether we need to advance our election technology. Yeah. So to me, this indicates that we cannot have the integrity of the elections assured. Number two, I have been pushing this idea that if a commission oversees a general election, and that general election is challenged, of a presidential election is challenged in the Supreme Court, and it ends up, the Supreme Court ends up invalidating that election, that is a vote of no confidence against that commission. And therefore, we should have a mechanism of a mechanism that will quickly replace that commission for purposes of making sure that we have fresh blood. Remember, the 2017 election was contaminated election, and the court made that verdict. Yeah. So the question is, was that commission that was indicted by that judgment still a commission that, that can fit or foot the Caesar's wife?
Well, it's the same commission that took us to the election 2017.
I don't know why people talk about Caesar's wife.
Yes.
Professor, let's take a short break. And come back to that.
Before we take a short break, I just wanted to put a rider into what Wakili Njiru here has just said. I wish he had read the report on this one, but the theft happened not only in Nyanza, but it also happened in Tharaka Nithi.
Yes.
It happened in Marakwet West. It happened in Nandi.
Yes, it did.
Does it not make it worse?
Yeah, it makes us. Of course, theft is theft, and it doesn't matter where it happened.
Yeah.
But my problem is the headline. The way it is put is that it's sensationalized to give an impression
that is
about the 2022 election.
Now, why now? But then Wakili raised.
How do you propose it? How do you propose the headline to appear?
Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. This is Dr. Frank tonight. And of course, on to our first guest of the night. An amazing actress, an award-winning actress, one of the top influencers right now, a top brand ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, and a lady who I respect, and of course, I'm proud to call her my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, DJ listening, are you ready for something there?
Yes.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
Give me something, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kate Kamau, aka Kate, actress. How much material
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot.
Does it give like, is it like normal time to wear like 10 minutes? Ama like lazima uipangie.
Hii lazima shida ni kwenda kwa choo hiyo tu. Yeah.
But they come to think of it, madam of a jumpsuit. How do you guys go to the washroom? How do you guys deal with that whole thing?
That's why we go in pairs to the bathroom.
No, men, you never find men going to the washroom in pairs. Anyway, Richie ni aje. Nasikia kusojo, hebu niishie. I think ladies are so privileged. You guys can even call each other boom, babe, sweetheart. Imagine now me, I'm now calling Richie. Richie babe, ni aje. Unakamjobosa ngapi na saxophone.
But we are okay with that.
Never.
Yeah.
Kate, welcome on the show. You are our first guest ever. Piga makofi. Tuko na interior design round hii.
Ni Wajakoya ama
check relax. Usiseme na nguvu we. Nakada wana watch, nakada.
Ni sponsored.
Let me ask, have you ever tried?
No, what is that? No.
Haujawahi? Under by mistake.
But now I know it because of Wajakoya.
Oh really? So hujaipita kwa campaign ya Wajakoya by mistake ukaisikia? Have you ever tried drugs at any point?
Which one?
You're a clean,
I'm a role model.
Role model. Sawa kwa me. Listen, do we have enough role models in the industry anymore? Or because I've seen these days people do their own things, they mess up on social media, then they come and say, listen, I was not born to be a role model. I'm living my own life. Do you think that is the correct way to handle it?
All right, I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate because I am part and parcel of the media, but then of course it becomes hard to take ourselves off the hook when everybody sort of feel like we are sensationalizing some of these matters that we are just reporting on based on, first of all, it begins by saying an electoral agency document presented to Parliament has revealed, and we know where it comes from and to what point and who was articulating to this and what parliamentary committee was addressing to this. So, Mheshimiwa, I don't know how then it becomes that it's the media that is trying to sensationalize this, but I am coming to you. Let me read this, and I'll ask this question. Is this then not fodder for the Right Honorable Raila Odinga? You started by saying that Raila is known. Probably Professor would agree with you that it's the same old Raila who thrives in such scenarios, but he has declared a holiday. Well, of course, that could be seen as hot air, as many would say. But Eric here sends a message and a list of the things that we have been able to successfully attain as a country, courtesy of maandamano. Well, not to appear as though we are advocating for this, but the Constitution itself envisions the need for us to, have some of these sessions, and peaceful ones for that matter. And it's actually what the Right Honorable Raila Odinga calls for alongside his cohorts, that is in Azimio. Maandamano has brought us about the repealing of Section 2A that created multi-party democracy. Maandamano brought about the closure of Nyayo torture chambers. Well, Maandamano brought about liberty, freedom of speech and expression we enjoy. Maandamano brought about the end of clueless authoritarian rule of the Nyayo era, and very many things that Maandamano brought us. Devolution, we speak about revolution. So why would you want to argue that nothing much will come out of this Maandamano, if there's going to be any anyway? Because it was supposed to have this on the 14th, and now
that person forgot to say that Maandamano brought up IPPG.
There's quite a list here. There's quite a list here, and IPPG is what they are advocating for today.
Yes. Linda, Linda, we've known Raila personally for as long as I came to know Kenya. And we cannot downplay his contribution to the opening up, the space that we enjoy in terms of democratic processes, and we cannot downplay that. But as usual, a good dancer is one who knows when to exit the stage, Linda, you see. And if you continue dancing, then you lose the audience, you lose that appeal. This is what is happening to Baba. I agree totally with the list that has been listed there. But now the current Maandamano, what are they going to achieve? All what has been mentioned was done and achieved. But will the Maandamano on Monday bring down the cost of unga? Will it bring down the cost of fuel? Will it make him be the president?
Because, do you suppose the people who join in Maandamano will be about the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, or genuinely the concerns that Kenyans have? This conversation of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Linda, the issue of the IBC, I really sympathize with Baba, because prior to the 2022 general election, there were vacancies, 4 of them, for the commissioners who had exited. And the same law which was used to recruit the Charera 4, we've not done any amendments, and Wakil is here, I stand to be corrected, if we've done any amendments to favor the current government in picking those IBC commissioners. It is the same law, and that time Baba clapped with his handshake brother that this is the best that we can have, the Charera 4 came. That was meant to be the system or the antidote for them to win, and they lost. So for them now to say that this law is bad, when just a few months back it was so good that they thought that was the way to go, it would puzzle any logical Kenyan if one is to actually look at it. And saying that simply because he lost, now we need the IPPG. And for this matter, if you are to listen to him carefully, he only talks about the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio. These are the people who should nominate the commissioners. To me, that will not even cure the problem, because we have independents out there. We have other parties. We are talking about 2027 general election. Who said that the players will be only Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, that if they were to pick them, that would be the best that we can have in this country? So, to me, if there are issues to do with the current laws in terms of picking IBC, Azimio has elected leaders in parliament. They can bring in amendments in parliament. They can argue their cases in parliament. He can even even an ordinary Kenyan can petition parliament with some proposals, and they will be tabled and they will go through the due process. Otherwise, for me, my worry come Monday is that we cannot actually downplay the fact that Raila has a following, like a cult following. Let me put it that way, a cult following. And it is so sad that the mass action that they are proposing, and I've said this before, God forbid, let it not turn out to be mass destruction. Because if that happens, it is the same people that is trying to protect that they are going to suffer. And here, it's not about the Azimio followers or the Kenya Kwanza followers. It will be across board. We are all going to suffer. We have one country, and we need to protect it.
May I just make a little observation on what Mheshimiwa has said? And you cannot downplay the effect of Maandamano. And it is because of this maandamano that even the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, and the professor will attest to this, because of the contest that was there between the West Germany and the East Germany. Had it not been for the fall of the Berlin Wall, which signified, which ushered in the regime of liberalism, the regime of good governance, the regime of democracy, then today we would not be where we were. Remember, even when Matiba started the demonstration, it came after the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall was the barrier between a liberal world and a conservative world. That is the significance of the Berlin Wall, and I'm very sure Professor is much more positioned to submit on this better than I am. But we should also not forget a very fundamental role, that wherever we have this aspect of democracy in Africa, we're always having problems. We now have a big problem in Nigeria. But you also want to look at where democracy is practiced in a different way. For example, in South Africa. In South Africa, they have what they call the proportional representation mechanism. That is, proportional representative mechanism means that the political party with the majority of members in parliament also produces a president. So a president is not directly elected by the electorates. The electorates elect their president by electing or casting their votes for the political party. You know, in South Africa, they were able to domesticate democracy to suit their circumstances because of the effect of apartheid. We Kenyans, we never, when we appreciate democracy in 1990, we never juxtaposed our democracy as against our cultural background, as against our economic background, and as against our different political orientation. So to me, in South Africa, you've never had a contest arising from the presidential election. Why? Because it's for the political party to popularize itself, sell its agenda, sell its manifesto. If people fall in love with it and to get the majority of members in parliament, like the ANC, then ANC takes up the leadership. Then how is the president going to be determined by the ANC? The ANC will determine who will become the president. They have their own mechanism of who becomes the president. And of course, that is a procedure of exercising, one, strengthening our political party, two, exercising internal political party democracy. When we proposed this, and our constitution has slightly captured that under Article 90, because Article 90 is one that has brought political parties list. And this political parties list is on the basis of proportional representation. Yeah. So perhaps it's a high time we now start thinking as Kenyans. Do we then need to change the manner in which we establish government? And of course, perhaps borrow a leaf from a country like Germany or a country like South Africa, where they're using proportional representation, and see if it's going to work for us.
And I want us to ask ourselves whether then it is all rosy for the likes of South Africa. Professor, let's look at this in this context and the Maandamano moments. And most of the people might not know this, but occurrences of that nature are also playing out in other different countries and the very same date, yeah? We are talking about the very same South Africa that Malema plans to bring a say to a standstill on March the 20th for whatever reasons. Those ones have to be political. That there are rallies against police brutality planned in Lagos, Nigeria for March the 20th. Mass anti-side protests, protests planned in Tunisia, that is, on March the 20th. And the very same rallies that we have in Nairobi planned for the March 20th. Let's look at, the sequence of a revolution, the wind of a revolution, the wind of change across some of these countries, even the aspect of independence, that when Ghana begins, then the rest of the Africans are now mark timing and they're saying it is time that we also get to, obtain our very own independence. What do you read in these occurrences that most of the Kenyans might not be alive to, but they're taking center stage across? We saw when it came to Zimbabwe, when the fall of, Mugabe, we witnessed what has played out in Chad, we witnessed what played out in Gambia, and it was almost the same timeline.
It appears very well.
An external hand?
Orchestrated, yes, it seems to be well orchestrated. In fact, there was a question whether, did Raila Odinga have a discussion with Malema?
Okay.
because everything looks as if it's a carbon copy of Malema's
What is
thing.
playing now?
You know, even the uniform they are wearing and the beret. And the language is the same.
Yes.
Malema says on that day,
yes,
he's going to get rid of Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
You know, how he will do it is another matter, but and you know, mobilize them and those things. And Raila says the same thing. On that day, he's going to get rid of Ruto.
Yes.
You know, so the mandament on Monday is really not even about sufurias and unga. It is power.
Yeah.
How Raila can get Ruto out of office. And then he gets in,
Well, interesting.
Yeah, that's the game.
That's the whole,
the others are excuses.
Yeah.
So, will he be able to do it? If he does not achieve it, then what is going to be the outcome? Another handshake. In fact, all we are looking for is a nice way of calling some handshake. And we've already had some preachers say, please, you people, talk to each other. You know, the same thing. So, it's a political game. Now, how Ruto will prepare for Monday remains to be seen. And there will be some sort of confrontation. This thing is not about unga or sufuria.
Oh, yeah?
It is power.
Yes.
Who gets it and who does not. And that's why the coincidence with Malema is very interesting. Now, the Nigerian one, that's, I think they're just copying. And so in Tunisia, they have a terrible president who doesn't like black people. And they had been building up some discontent. So when he burst out against black people, was a way of diverting attention from domestic challenges to some external orientation, and it backfired on him. So now the people in Tunisia building on this say now, okay, so there seems to be a movement. 20th is a good day of March.
It will be interesting to watch. Yes, for people to march. They say the March 20th is over.
There is an assumption. It's in 1922. Benito Mussolini simply marched into Rome. And he got the power in front of
you cannot...
So maybe some people think they can also march into something.
It will be interesting. Gentlemen, we have to close.
No, these are very important.
Let me plug in one little thing for historians.
Yes.
My condolences to Professor Mwaniki, you know, the long-time historian, the creator of Egerton, like Kipia University, when it was a campus. He's the one who built it up there.
Right.
Apart from writing interesting books on Embu history, he passed away. So my condolences.
Condolences from us as well, and we also acknowledge the contribution, immense contribution for that matter, that will carry us generations.
May I say something?
Yes, as we close. We are trying, very brief.
We are trying to trivialize this issue. About the Mandamano. This thing is not about the Mandamano. It's about the exclusion. It's about the exclusion of a larger cross-section of the society who are now trying to assert themselves by saying, hey guys, we also here.
And I started asking,
is it
about Raila or it's about...
It's about a disconnect. It's not about Raila, because Raila will go. But this kind of political defranchisement, political exclusion, where you are told that this country is a company, wewe kaa hapo mwangalie, because you're not shareholders, stay aside from this company, you cannot accrue any dividends. And then you are saying that these people will sit pretty and just wait for 5 years or 10 years to end so that they can try to also buy shares in this company. You know, that kind of language is the one that is fueling this fire. Because people are asking themselves, hey, we also Kenyans. If the dividends will only accrue to the shareholders, why are you asking us to pay taxes? You see, if we were in a more reasonable administration, The administration will be calling up for unity and cohesiveness of the country.
Is that not what?
And I am surprised. I am surprised in this country we have a commission called the Commission on Commission on Cohesion.
Cohesion, yeah.
And this Commission on Cohesion, and I told you this, all these institutions are moribund and dead. All these guys, what these guys are doing, they hear somebody in the name of Mr. Gachagua making those utterances, and they are not called to order. You see, we cannot move in a country that is excluding other people. So this is a demonstration of discontentment by a larger cross-section of the society who have been excluded from the normal activities of the country. Then they are being told, we are going to sustain this company by our taxes. Yet we are not accruing any benefit.
Linda.
Why should we sustain this company?
Linda,
They should also demonstrate to earn their dividends by becoming members of the company. And they have to take any means necessary for them to achieve that.
So that means mandamano.
Including mandamano.
You see, Wakili should have been the last person to talk about any means necessary. It's like you have another place to go on Monday.
And we hope any means, by any means necessary.
I don't know. I'm not the one who has called for mandamano.
That should not be it. And mandamano should not be plunged the country to disaster.
I am not the one who has called for mandamano.
His statement that by any means necessary.
And that should be misplaced. That should be misplaced.
It is not misplaced.
It is not
misplaced.
I will want to play
because Raila Odinga has said the means in which they are going to use will be constitutional means. So if it is any means necessary contemplated by the constitution, then they have the right, because even picketing was allowed by Kenyans. And picketing is what is called mandamano in Kiswahili.
Fair enough.
Wakili, two things. When did these people become marginalized? As from 9th of August last year?
No, it has been a hue and cry.
Yeah,
no.
For the last
it is an issue in this country.
Yeah, exactly. That's where you should have started.
And when we try to bring the issues of the BPI for purposes of cohesion and inclusivity, these guys fought it.
No, he did not.
No, not him.
He did not.
The guys now in the administration fought it.
Yes.
You know, he's a very nice man. But he's a nice man.
He's a prominent.
He's a good man, very benevolent, associated with a group of people that we do not trust.
No. So Wakili, the issue of marginalization is real. It has been there. And you should appreciate that it started where after independence. Let's talk about the independent Kenya in 1963.
No, not after, before.
Before.
Now, let's talk about what we could change, which was on our hands. Before it was Damzungu.
Yeah.
We fought him, we removed him, so we can now take responsibility. Essentially, we should take serious responsibility from 1963. Marginalization has been there. So it should not be looked at that marginalization is 6 months old, and this is where. But look at the history of Right Honorable Raila. Since the multi-party came in, you see, he is always lost and he's always cried fall.
He says this he does because, again, the regimes have not done anything.
And for this time, Wakili should have mentioned that this was a bad loss because he was so sure that he had the government on his side, he had the ABC.
This is not about the loss of Raila Odinga.
No,
it's about the exclusion of the people.
He's been on record saying that with this mandamano, he'll go to State House and he'll be installed. From Monday now, he'll be the president of this country. That's Raila. It's not the Mwananchi who will be the president of this country. It is him who wants to be the president of this country, but walking into State House and installing himself. Wakili, you should have been the first person to call him out that, look, if you are talking about constitutional means the way you are saying, there is no constitutionality in installing yourself, in walking yourself into State House. So I think
my brother,
what will be the end game on Monday?
Listen, I do not know the end game, but the question of the people marching,
people suffering,
the people marching and people installing themselves, if they are successful, is constitutional. Because remember the other day. Let me bring up to speed. The other day I submitted on the question of the Kelsenian pure theory of law. The Kelsenian pure theory of law, and Professor will support it.
And as you submit,
as I submit, provides that if any person dislodges and manages to successfully dislodge the old legal order and replaces that old legal order with a new legal order, then to the extent that that process is successful, that new legal order becomes a legitimate legal order. And it is, of course, appreciating is of course appreciating the aspect of where the sovereignty of the people is and the ability of the people to self-determination. You can read that case in the case of ex parte Matovu. That is the principle that was used in Uganda in 1966.
You cannot mislead.
No, I'm not misleading. I'm not misleading. The Kelsenian pure theory of law is there.
But talking about constitutional,
the Kelsenian pure theory of law.
Not in our constitution.
It is there. The Kelsenian pure theory of law.
The sitting president.
I spoke about the Kelsenian pure theory of law. I can school you on that.
That is currently enforced.
Recently, and as to the election, we're talking about the Ndungu report. It was what? No, not the Ndungu report. What is this one that we were referring to? That was there in 2017, and so we're referring to argue the case. I can't remember what it's about. Let me try and remember, and then I'll remind us before we close.
But can you just sum it up? But by saying
it was no. The Constitution allows the people's power. That is why power belongs to the people and they shall exercise their sovereignty in accordance with that constitution.
But that is not indicated in the constitution.
It is there. It is him who does not know. It is him who does not know the constitution.
It's not about knowing.
Professor, as you close it, perhaps bring in some.
Which allows people to walk into State House and install themselves.
The mistakes that may have been made in the Ruto Gachagua government, because they have made some mistakes, are the ones that reinforce or empower Raila and his team to claim that they can march into the State House and take over. A revolution, actually, that's what it is.
A very unconstitutional process.
A revolution is really constitutional. You just go and grab power. And you see what you're talking, basing the argument on some old theory of the Lockean,
which is not in the Constitution.
No, whether it is or not, the concept, the right of a revolution. The revolution is a right, is a natural right. When the government has failed totally in its basic job of protecting life, liberty, and
are we there yet?
No, I'm not saying whether we are, but that's the argument that then people can take over if the government has failed. Now, they claim that the government has failed in 6 months, therefore go and take over, and then it is proper. Is something that can be debated. I don't think we are there yet, but the government has made some blunders. Whether my friend Kasim agrees, when you go around saying that only us are going to deal with these things, it's a company, and there's some other statements. Earlier on, you were talking about some things that raise eyebrows. And people say, what are you doing? And they erode confidence. So maybe Ruto and Gachagua, but mainly Ruto because he's the boss, is the one who needs to relook at the whole thing. How has he been approaching things? Why is he eroding confidence instead of building it? Because there's time. There's time. And the Maandamano is constitutional, yes, but it is not constitutional to overthrow the government. That as far as I'm concerned. Now, people in power are always scared of Maandamano. And it's normal. It's normal. I was talking about the IPPG,
Yes.
What happened in the IPPG? All the people in parliament, including Raila and Martha, and all the radicals who are in what? In parliament. Led by Moi. They got scared by Kivuza Kibwana, who was organizing Maandamano with Willy Mutunga and David Dalamba and Njoya.
Yes, and
so they were organizing Maandamano. When they called for meetings, people showed up. When the government called, people did not bother. And that scared them. That's why elected people in parliament ganged up in IPPG to save themselves from those people outside there. So now, Who does Ruto gang up with this time?
Good question.
Okay,
Who does he gang up? Is it the Maina Kiai report?
The Maina Kiai's case.
Yes, and all that. Allow us to close, gentlemen, because we have to close. And
only that my only one plea that I will make, that for those people who will come for the maandamano, they must understand it is their constitutional right. Yeah. But this constitutional right should not violate the right of the neighbor. So if maandamano, which is a constitutional process, let it be a peaceful maandamano. If it is going to be a peaceful maandamano, nobody will place a finger on them.
Well put.
And that peaceful maandamano does not bar them from going to any government office if they so wish to present their petition.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, constitutional lawyer.